impact on that.
Well, how about free safety, Mike? You got some young guys back there. Are you settled there?
I think it's an ongoing thing. I mean, we have obviously Gibson played last year and played well for the team, so he's going to get all the looks. And we drafted Slaughter, who we feel like once he's healthy can come in and take a look. So I think it's an ongoing evaluation. I think it's just going to, it's way too early in the process to make any conclusive statements.
Mike, you guys talk about building a plan and building something that you can sustain. On a serious note, Jimmy's problems business-wise, can that have any negative impact on building something that can sustain him?
Our job is to keep working on the football team and keep doing the things we do, and that's what he expects us to do, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, everybody talks about, these guys ask you about their timeline for getting it turned around. Do you look at what other teams have been able to do? Maybe San Francisco when Jim came in and they kind of made a pretty big jump and have been able to sustain it?
I don't think there's any fast rule. I mean, there's no real okay, this is the way, let's follow this. I mean, we're not a cooking school here. There's not one recipe to follow. So I think you just have to constantly keep evaluating. I think the one thing you have to do is make sure you evaluate the players you have correctly, and if you have to make changes, you do that.
Is that why, talk about evaluating the players you have, didn't draft a lot of guys on offense, especially early, because you want to see Wheaton in the second year and the receivers and Cameron?
I think you better know your team. I think you have to know your team really well. And it can't just be, making quick decisions emotionally. You have to really know your team, and I think that's what you do. They're on their team. They're all Cleveland Browns, and you have to know your team. And I think that takes a little bit of time.
Like the Jim Schwartz story, is that harder to do today? Do they keep guys more insulated today than they did back then?
No. I think, you have to obviously it's a challenge. The internet makes it even more of a challenge. Twitter, Facebook makes it more of a challenge. But I think there's solutions within all problems. You just have to think about it.
When the season starts, will you be on campuses and at games on Saturdays?
I'd like to, yeah. I like football. I like to see it.
The longer groups kind of circulates out there. Is there any chance at all that you guys would bring him back here?
Well, I think he's looking. I think he wants the perfect opportunity, and I'm sure that what he finds and what we may talk about, that has to be perfect for both parties.
Mike, what's improvement look like for you guys, for you next year as you watch this team and evaluate? What's it look like?
Well, I think that's really comes down to the games, the situations, the evaluation. That's really early. I think it's hard to quantify improvement. I think you've got to be able to know where you are at certain points, and level of expectations have nothing to do with it. I think you have to understand it.
Hey, Mike, when you talk about looking ahead and the value in terms of trading the 4th and 5th rounders, how much does that have to do with the analytics you guys are using, if at all, and talk about that whole decision?
I think everything you do is about value. I think everything you do and every decision you make, you've got a value. I mean, that's what we are in, a valuable. So, you look at those things, and if the value meets, then you make the decision. And I think, Banner has always been very good at, he's been successful at doing those trades in the past going back. And I think if you look at the 49ers and you look at the Patriots, I think the successful franchises which Joe operated and ran have always decided what the best value was, and I think that's clearly the case. And that's what we're going to do moving forward all the time.
Those analytics, is that something that Joe brought in, or is that something that you've worked with, when you were with Oakland and when you were here before?
Well, no, Oakland was not an analytical world, but I think you have to look at things in a different way. Joe's always been very good at understanding how to advance things, understand how you have to do things. I mean, he's ran a successful organization for a long, long time. I mean, it isn't just by luck. I mean, the man knows what he's doing, and you understand that, and you move forward and use the best skills you can.
You've been in the same building with Brandon now for a while, and you've seen him throw the ball down the field. What are your early impressions?
I think you have to be really careful to make impressions, and you never want to begin with the end in mind. So you have to always kind of make sure you stay clear. Every day is not a day of evaluation. Every day is a day of learning, and I think that's key. You got to keep trying to learn a little bit more and move forward, and then ultimately, when you have enough of a sample size to make a decision, and I think that's what we're going to do.
With Ray's 3-4, 4-3 hybrid, are you confident with a guy like Jabal Sheard can get out there and play in space?
Yeah, I think he can. I think he certainly has showed the willingness to do it. I think it's going to, again, it's a part of the evaluation. You've got to go out there and see him do it in games and situations. And he's learning and he's growing and he's doing a tremendous job of buying into what he believes to be the program. And Ray Horton's done a great job, and Joe Cullen and Brian, they all have kind of gotten him. And so he's got a good support staff.
Where are you at in the process of kind of restructuring the scouting department now?
We are talking to people. I think it's about timing and making sure everything fits. I think there's really not a rush. So I don't know if there's a point where we are or where we're not. We're just making sure it's the right fit, what we want to do.
And can you address there's been a lot of, things written about the scouts departing and whether they were involved in the draft or not. Can you address that topic?
Well, scouts have always written reports. I think last year in the draft room, the scouts weren't in the draft room last year either. I think most NFL teams don't always have all their scouts in the room. They write reports. That's why people write reports. They give their reports. They're there. And so we had a huge amount of reports on our file. So, I don't think everybody understands how the process works.
Did you go into it? Did you come close to drafting a quarterback in any of the rounds?
I don't think that was an area where I thought the value would have met the pick. We thought the value would have met.
So going in, it was never.
Well, you never know. Again, you have to understand where I'm coming from. It's not a cliche, but you can't begin with the end in mind. You can't say I'm going to pick a quarterback in round 3. You got to kind of see where it all is.
Does anything that has happened with Mingo since the draft reinforce the pick for you?
I think he's come in, he's been passionate about football, as all the things we talked about on draft day. Now he just got to continue to get better. I think everybody, like all of us, me included, we got to keep working hard at our jobs to get better at what we do.
A couple more guys.
We've heard a lot about all of us has written how skinny he looks. How skinny can he play? Does he really need to put on the 10 pounds?
Well, I think, again, it really comes down to his function and how he plays on the field. But I think he's played in a very high level of competition at a certain weight. And I think that level of competition really didn't hinder him by that weight.
Joe's talked about with us before about if you want to extend a contract of a guy, you try to get it done before the season. Now with the draft and the bulk of free agency out of the way, are you in the process of doing that with Alex Mack, T.J. Ward?
We really haven't gotten to that point. I think we certainly that's a list of things to do as we move forward. But I think again it's about making sure we evaluate the players.
Are those two guys you would want to extend?
Those are good players. We just have to make sure we evaluate them. It's got to be fit within they want to do and how they move.
I get asked about Kerry Rhodes all the time. Is he somebody that you guys might bring in?
Kerry played for Ray in Arizona. He's a name out there. We haven't really done much at all. So it's just right now we're focusing on the Cleveland Brown players and seeing where we are.
What did you think about the Klosterman article?
The what?
Chuck Klosterman's article.
I did not read it. You'd be surprised. I don't really read it. You can ask me. I made it. I haven't read any articles since I've been back.
You have a target date for getting the draft pick signed, and I know the Lions got all theirs.
I think the new system will help you make sure we'll get that done. I think that's what the new system is about, is making sure nobody does that. So whether they're today, tomorrow, or next week.
Is there a reason a lot of them were signed last week? It seemed earlier than even last year.
I think that's part of the new system. Everybody, once a new system comes in, it takes a little while, and then everybody understands it.
How big a deal is offset language for the top pick?
Well, I think it's something that it's important. Clubs. I think only Miami last year was the only team that got it in the first round. I think it's important.